to start the recording there, and then I'll just be a minute or so looking for something to talk about.
Okay.
No?
Five, four, three,
Glad you could stop by, Alyssa.
one. Defend objective
Watch a fire strike. Ooh.
Right. Alright. So
How much shard?
I already see
Go
two
ahead.
things we'll talk about, though they're a little bit long, so we'll talk about them next time we get a chance. Probably like after this game, or maybe in between a round or so. Oh, never mind. We can talk about them now, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. So just don't go and get into a queue like right off the bat here. We'll just take a couple minutes to just go over these two things. So first off, I am streaming. If you'd like to take a look at mine. Stream inside of stream inside of stream here.
Yeah, stream session.
Yeah. So in any case here, let's take a look. So we're going to go over. Oh, I might volume up a little high here. So we're gonna go over shield management just to start off here. So the first big thing within that last game was our shield burn real fast, and we weren't. I probably say we weren't managing it too well. So.
Okay.
How we can look to manage our shield better so it sustains us longer in the fight. First off is making sure that we are actually letting it recharge. As something we did throughout that fight was we kept flashing it up every like 2 seconds, right? Was we would drop it, flash it, drop it, flash it, drop it, and then that meant that it just really never gets to recharge. So make sure you're dropping it for longer portions of time so that that can actually charge back up and you actually have it. But then besides that, we also want to be more selective about what we're actually shielding up against. So when we are shielding, they're basically like a bunch of different things that you shield for, right? You shield when you are low, when you have teammates who are low, you shield when you're blocking abilities and ultimates, you shield when you're pushing and when you're backing, and you also shield when there's a ton of damage coming in, such as like, let's say your team's grabbed and you need to save their life with a shield, right? So those are all the times where you shield. The times where you do not shield is essentially when you're just soaking up random spam damage, right? And that essentially was like the very beginning of that last fight, like when you guys are just poking at each other. That's all the damage that you don't really want to be soaking up with your shield, because it's the type of damage that's probably not going to kill many people, or if it does look like it's going to, then you can just put up a shield and to save them, right? So we don't want to just hold our shield and hard hold it when nothing's happening yet, because then we don't have any shield for when we actually need it against more important things, such as abilities, such as ultimates, such as when people are low, right? So we want to make sure we're not just kind of coming into the fight just hard holding our shield the entire time and then not having a shield for the important things. So that's the first big thing that I noticed, like just right off the bat. Second thing is we're going to talk about no man's land usage. So are you familiar with the term no man's land in Overwatch?
No, just World War One.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the same concept in World War I and II Overwatch. I mean, not a lot of people know it in Overwatch, right? But it's the same thing, right? No man's land is any long stretch of space where there's no cover at all, right? Obviously, when you have cover, you can duck behind it and you can't get shot at. But when there's a long stretch of space where there's no cover at all, that means that essentially you can just shoot at them the entire time they're running in, and it's very bad positioning, right? So let's say, for example, right, we are this right here is a no man's land, this entire stretch right here. So if the enemy team is all the way over there and the objective is over on this side, right? They have to walk through this. If we were to position and hold all the way up here at the front of it, this would be bad positioning, because if they push us back, well, now they don't have to walk through the no man's land, and in fact, we have to walk backwards through said no man's land where there's no cover, right? Same thing if we held in the middle of it. Right now, where we want to be holding instead is at the end of the no man's land, like right on the corner here, and let them walk to us and let them walk through the bad positioning. So how this kind of works in the last game we were in was we were holding it on point, which is pretty good, except for we were basically holding on the corner, but then we would push past the corner and go up to like right here, right? So we
Yes.
essentially left the cover, left the left the end of the no man's land to walk towards the middle of it, and then that meant that we took a bunch of unnecessary damage. It meant we didn't have cover to use. It meant that we didn't make them walk as far through as we could have, right? We could have had them come to us. So alternatively, what we should have done was we should have just gone for Fire Strike spam, just wait on the corner, wait for them to run to you, let your team do some spam damage, shield if needed, and then once they get close enough, right, we can then swing off of the corner, and then maybe we can push in aggressively if we had an advantage to push off of. But we pretty much want to play off of the corner, right? Go in and out with shielding, use the corner as cover. This means that we will take less damage and our shield will take less damage, and then it also means that they have to walk further in. Whereas if we were to push up to here, well, now they can stay back there and use cover, or they don't have to walk all the way in. Whereas if we are holding on the corner, they have to walk all the way in, right? And then this puts them in a really bad spot. So does that make sense, or both of those things make sense in terms of how you should be playing?
Yeah, so less aggressive, it sounds like.
Yeah, so I mean,
Like the key takeaway.
yeah, I mean, less aggressive, definitely in that certain instance, right? Reinhardt is definitely an
Right.
aggressive character, so it's more about knowing when to get aggressive and when not to be aggressive, and that's a situation when you should not be aggressive.
Okay.
So you can look to go ahead and queue up here. I'm gonna stop my stream.
All right. Let me switch this over. Oh yeah, that game was canceled. That's right. It's so weird playing without music.
Music. Me playing with music. Ultimately, I can't play with music like if I'm trying to play super seriously. I just get distracted. If I'm just chilling though, I'll listen to music.
Well, it's funny. It's part of my biggest problem, but also I have the most fun. Is like I kind of like to zone out when I play, so that's
Yep.
probably also probably why my brain doesn't work the way it
Yeah,
should.
well, I would definitely say that if you're looking for improvement, like I mean, like if you're playing casually, go ahead and do that. I mean, it really depends on what your goals are. If your objective though is to climb an SR or to improve or to get better or to win games, well, then I probably would recommend making sure you're not zoning out, because then that's how you're going to put in the most brain power and win more games. And then also on top of that, that's actually going to be how you improve, is by not zoning out.
Right.
Justice will be done.
It is not my preference to see to matters personally,
Mhm.
but I will see them done.
So like normally on this comp here, I would go Diva, but I want to stay Ryan because I want to learn how to play Ryan and well, I guess he swapped Genji, but
So why would you go diva in this composition?
just because I wouldn't have the support because I'm very aggressive and it's very difficult for me to unlearn that aggressiveness.
Yeah, I'd probably say that your composition fits fine enough with a Reinhardt, right? You have a Moya who works with you. You did have I think you had an Ana before you swapped the Mercy, and then you have a Mei who can play with you. So I'd probably say like you're not running a full brawl, but I definitely would say that you have enough to where Reinhardt would fit okay. Especially when you had that other brawly support. Okay, so there in that instance, right, we want to take a look at their composition and identify the difference between our two. We can go really in depth on that if we need to, but for the moment, just noting that they're on a much more aggressive composition than we are, right? They're on a full brawl composition, which means that we have to play a little bit more passive in comparison, right?
Okay.
So if we wanted to, we could swap the Reinhardt to maybe fit with a different composition, or we could play our Ryan still and just know that we have to play more passive in comparison to their Ryan.
All right, let's try and stick Ryan here.
Okay. Like the Fire Strike so far, it's good that we're using it off a cooldown.
I cast this forth.
I don't. Hello, team. Want to come left? All right, we're up.
I will.
well played.
I feel like I didn't really contribute much to that fight, though.
No, I mean, you definitely contributed a lot. I mean, like, you existed, you did damage, you did pretty much your job there, right? I mean, I wouldn't say that, like, we particularly carried, but I mean, like, we couldn't have got, like we've been saying, like, you can't really get aggressive up against their composition with what you
Right.
have. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, the shower is pretty good. I'd probably say, again, in that instance, we did overextend past the no man's land, which would be essentially holding choke would be where you want to be, or, sorry, holding point would be basically where you want to be holding.
Okay.
As that's, you know, though going for a shatter is definitely not a bad idea in that instance, but just to kind of show you where you want to be kind of holding in this instance is just where your Ashe is standing, right?
Okay. So I just saw their support standing there, and I kind of hoped that if I killed both of them, that we would win even if I died.
Yep.
That's just my thought process.
Yep, I think that definitely was a good shatter to go for, right? That was I would agree with that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, though. Like, I mean, I just stood there and we hooked the Ryan, and now we win the fight because of it.
Yep.
Because I was actually where I should be. Oh, I might want to rotate this way. He's got shatter, careful.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Symmetra.
Best round.
Yeah, very nice. Honestly, not a lot that we did wrong that round. I mean, of course, we won, so that's obvious.
I see, like, right there, that last fight, I was clueless, dude. I had no idea what to do.
mean, you pretty much played it, you know, played it right. You will watch for the Ryan shatter, you charging after the Ryan, and maybe say like you could have possibly counter-charged him there instead of letting him charge through, and then that could help you kill him faster. Besides that, I mean, you did your job. You held point. I think you're a little far forwards to start off was the only thing there, right? You, instead of being on point, you were up in their spawn.
5,
Right.
4,
Face lighting is bad, Kyle? Sorry. I can't really fix it. Yeah, I mean, so far, I only have 2 deaths. Usually I'm at like 5 by now, so...
Okay. So, oh, we got a kill, nice. So I think we might talk about team compositions and how they dictate our play style after this game is done. As so far, like for here now, right? They're on a completely different team composition. So now we honestly want to be playing more aggressive than we were last round and more aggressive than their team is, right?
Okay.
In comparison, right? So that fight we had played a little passive, too passive. Make sure that
Too aggro.
we're, yeah, a little too aggro, right? Let them come probably out of that room unless you have like your whole team in there with you, but we're not, our whole team wasn't in there with us, right? So we just want to pay attention to where our team is, right? Because if we did have team support, we could have done that, but we didn't, so we couldn't.
Okay. It's just still winnable, I think. Our sim popped.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, semi carry. Go on. Okay.
Kill it, baby.
Yep, so just holding this doorway is going to be where we want to be unless we have an opportunity to go in or we have our whole team pushing in there.
Okay.
massive. If we had backed up a little bit further, though, maybe we could have gotten more in the shatter, right, than just one, especially since they had 0 shields to block you, right? So in that situation, going for more people in your shatter probably would have been of higher value, so be more ambitious with it, right?
Okay.
Especially when they don't have anything at all to block it, right? We probably could have gotten like 4 in that.
Um,
Chris or half. Oh, let's fucking add up.
Make sure that when we have health and we have shields that we're swinging and trying to do things, whereas in that last fight particularly, right, we had health and had shields, we're like 400 HP-ish, right, we just kind of sitting there shielding when there were like a Moira and a Hog in the right room, for example, right, so we want to make sure that when we have the resources that we're doing things, right, and when we don't, then we're playing more passive, but we did have resources there, so we wanted to be actually participating. So
Okay.
before you hop into the next game, we're going to discuss team compositions real quick, and then I think that's it out of everything. I just uploaded a picture if you'd like to take a look real quick over on Discord. So essentially, these are the 3 team compositions of the game. Are you familiar with Dive, Brawl, and Spam?
I mean, kind of dive and kind of brawl.
Yeah.
Not really the rest. I mean,
Yeah, so dive is any like fast-moving, high-paced composition, right? So think, for example, Diva, Monkey, Wrecking Ball. Then you have like Genji, Tracer, Doomfist, Echo, Pharah, and then you have like Ana and Zenyatta and Mercy, right? So those are dive characters, right?
right.
Brawl is going to be like really close-range characters and tanky characters. So think, for example, Reinhardt, Zarya, Reaper, May, Junkrat, then you have Lucio, Moira, Baptiste, Ana, right?
Okay.
That'd be like Brawl, right? Otherwise known as Rush. Spam or Deathball would be another term for it. So there's a bunch of different words for it. Spam or Poke, right, is a far distance characters. They are going to be like Orisa, Sigma, Roadhog, snipers, long range DPS, Zenyatta. There's a ton of them DPS where you can name like Hanzo, Junkrat, Echo. You have a bunch of different things in there. Torbjorn. Then in the supports you'd have like Zenyatta, Baptiste, Mercy. So those are the 3 basic compositions, and every comp that has existed and probably will exist has been one variation of these 3. So basically those are the 3, and then hybrid would be anytime you don't really have anything in particular when you're not really running any particular composition. So if you have 4 or more characters on a particular comp, you are that composition. So if we have, for example, 4 spam characters, we are a spam comp. But if we had 3
Okay.
spam characters and 2 brawl characters and a dive character, we would just be a spammy hybrid, right? We're not really a particular spam. So that's kind of how that works. Now let's talk about how they play, right? How do you play in comparison to these different compositions? Because you play differently when your team's on a different composition and when the enemy team's on a different composition. So when you're in a dive, right, you're basically playing really standard, right? You start off far away and you dive in close, so your range is kind of that. Then in pacing, you start off slow and then you get faster and faster as you get opportunities, kills, and ultimates, right? That's pretty standard. Now, Brawl and Spam is where it gets very unique, but then also very important, and it's also very easy to understand, is Spam is far-ranged characters, and therefore they like the fight to be slow because because you're really far away, you can just go pew pew shoot shoot the entire time while they can't shoot you. So think, for example, if you matched up a Widowmaker and a Reaper, right? If Widowmaker is sitting across the map from Reaper, then what is Reaper going to be able to do to the Widowmaker, right? So the Widowmaker wants all the time in the world to be able to shoot the Reaper, so she wants it to go slowly, right? Whereas on the Brawl side, it's the exact opposite. He's a close-range character, therefore the Reaper and the Brawl comp wants to go fast, because if he gives the Widowmaker all the time in the world to shoot at him, he's going to die while he can't do anything to shoot back, right? So if you play
Right.
fast, then you can get in on top of them, and you can be aggressive, and you can kill them before they're able to spam you out. So that's good.
Yeah. Sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I
So
was coughing.
yeah, so hybrids, when you don't really have a particular play style, you're kind of playing deathmatchy. Everyone's doing their own thing. If you're kind of like we said before, like maybe you're spammy hybrid, like where you have 3 spam characters, then you might be a little bit more spammy, but not fully spammy, right? If that makes sense. And then you'd kind of everybody's doing their own thing, right? Almost. So if you're a brawl composition and you're playing up against a spam composition, your goal is to get to them faster than, or like as fast as possible, right? And if you can get to them, you win. If they stay away from you, then they win, right? That's essentially how that works. Now, we just want to, while we're playing, kind of figure out how should we be playing, because as Reinhardt, you're a brawl character, but if you're playing a Reinhardt into a spam composition where you have 5 other characters, well, you'd be the only person running in, right? The only person at all doing anything. So in that situation, it might either you're going to need to swap up your play style, or it might even be better to swap to a different character, depending on what your objective is to do there, right? Like if you want to be flexible or not.
Okay.
So that all makes sense. Any questions on that?
No, it makes sense.
Yeah. So you can look to go ahead and hop into another queue there then.
So maybe this time I'll try and swap it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever you want to do here. You can go over whatever. Maybe, so like when we get into this next game, let's take a look and see if you can identify what composition we're on to begin with.
I'm sorry, what did you just say? I completely zoned out.
All good. So I said, yeah, maybe when we get into this next game, we can have you take a look and see if you can identify what composition your team's on to start off the round.
Okay. Okay.
Arriving at Watchpoint Gibraltar. Prepare to attack. Select your hero.
Alright, I think I should be unmuted.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I'm trying to remember all my hotkeys.
So as of the moment, what is it looking like our composition is leaning towards?
So far, dive.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the Anna Monkey and Echo.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Correct. Yep. Zenyatta's also dives, so here probably going a dive character would work best.
I'm actually, this is one of my, I would probably say best Diva maps. Now that I say that, I'm gonna suck on her, but I definitely do the best on Diva on this map.
Mm-hmm. Because this is a very good dive map.
A lot of memories in this place.
So I'm guessing here, we depending on their comp, we would either just try and get picks, or if they have like a brawly comp, I guess we would try and just farm Nano with Monkey.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, you're essentially you're playing it slow, and you're just kind of doing what you call soft dives until you get opportunities or picks or ultimates, right? Is kind of the deal.
Oh, I thought I ate that.
Alright. Pay attention to their team composition, and again, team comp dictates playstyle. As D.Va, you want to don't just use DM for random spam damage. Again, same as Ryan Shield. Look to intentionally get abilities, right? So think, for example,
Okay.
Ryan Fire Strike, right? Ash Dynamite, right? Ana Nade and Sleep, right? Specific high-powered abilities that you want to try to pick out so that they don't end up farming your team, right?
Okay.
And then again, kind of think of the DM same thing as your Ryan Shield, right? You use it when you low, teammates are low, when you're pushing, backing. It's essentially like all of the same thing as we talked about the Ryan Shield.
That was horrible.
Alright, so there we were kind of poking and going in and fighting when our team was still respawning and not with us. So I think we might end up going over some aggression stuff and whatnot after this game is done. But just for now, just know that we had been getting too aggressive when we had no teammates with us.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow, but realize that.
Alright. Yeah, we definitely have a couple things we'll go over after the game is done.
You think? Oh man, I'm playing awful.
Alright, so yeah, all these things pretty much are things that we'll have to discuss after game, just because it'll take a little too long. I guess we can talk about one of them.
Go ahead, lay it on me.
Yeah. So let's talk about target priority. So what should we be looking at? Pretty much the first big target priority thing is just don't shoot, don't shoot at tanks. They're not who we want to shoot at, right?
Okay.
Tanks have 2 to 3 times the health of other characters. They have tanking abilities. They have armor. They, on top of that, even though they're an very important role, right? DPS output damage and supports output healing, whereas tanks, their job is to create space, right? Which is not a statistical output. So we want to make sure we're focusing the other characters, and that's not to say we never shoot at tanks, right? We shoot at tanks when they're low, when they're out of position, when they're the only thing to shoot at, right? So think Reinhardt, can you instantly get to the back line?
No.
No, who do you have to go through?
What do you mean?
Who do you have to go through to get to their back line?
Oh, all the tanks.
So therefore, the tanks are the only thing you can shoot at as Reinhardt. But as D.Va, can you get to the back line pretty easily?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot easier than Reinhardt. So on D.Va, who did we spend pretty much most of that round focusing?
Reinhardt.
Reinhardt, right? So we ended
Yeah.
up not really focusing the right things, and then therefore we didn't really end up accomplishing very much, right? We spent like, probably like 3 minutes straight just kind of shooting at their tanks, and then we never got a kill because they just got healed up and pocketed, and then we never did anything, right? So they definitely weren't approaching that correctly in terms of who to be shooting at. So make sure you're actively trying to go for their backline and supports and DPS, right?
Right.
3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming.
Lifting off. Enemy target
Stop the pain.
Yep. Hole in the back end, right? We don't want to be. Oh, I guess I should start. We're up some players. I missed that. I was just talking in terms of positioning. You wanted to be up on the top right, right? But we got picks, so that was fine.
So even if they push the cart under here, I should have. Sorry, I bit my tongue. I should have stayed up there.
Yeah, so no, you don't want to stay at top right. I meant like back top right, so like a little up the ramp.
Oh,
a bit.
like
Yeah.
up here.
Yep, exactly. Right, instead of just
Okay.
kind of sitting in the middle. I do like to be rotated back to high ground. That's a good idea. Nice rock. Noting we haven't used grasp at all yet, so just make sure we're looking to use that ability when people are shooting at us, right? It gives us a bunch of extra health to work with.
Yep.
So it's pretty important that we use it, not just holding on to it.
Ryan behind by himself.
And because not using an ability in 2 minutes means that it doesn't do anything for 2 minutes.
So even if I don't need it, use it.
Well, I mean, you definitely, you can maybe look to force the usage out of it, right? So like actively look for situations where you could use it so that you can end up getting like, for example, shield health, right? And just soak up extra damage and do extra tanking, right? So you might not need to do it, but you want to do it so that you can do tanking and get health, right?
Okay. Didn't need that.
Yeah, so in that instance, making sure that we're rotating up to the high ground in between the fights. We ended up sitting on the low ground to start off, so when we wanted to be high.
It was too late.
Mm.
Hmm.
Oh, make sure just placing shield on the floor, right, so we don't get shattered underneath it. Make sure, we're kind of standing on the open, not really using cover at all, pretty push forwards, and we did have a couple more seconds to go in cart. So maybe when you get low there, play a little bit more passive and back up and let your team, do some work, right, and let them contest a little bit instead of just kind of suiciding on point.
Okay.
unfortunate. Okay, so let's talk about some stuff. So first off, what would you say your hero pool is? As I think you were glancing at your career profile, and it seemed as though you were a little all over the place. Like, do you mind, like, show me your career profile again so I can see like the time some characters?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 4 hours, right? So Reinhardt, Diva, Roadhog. Okay, so in total, right? Reinhardt, Roadhog, Sigma, Zarya. Okay, so that seems pretty solid of a yeah. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I'd say maybe like slightly spread because you do have so like if you're looking at that, would you at one point? Let me figure out how to word this. Are you still playing DPS as consistently as you have in the past, or do you used to play DPS
Um,
more?
I feel like I used, yeah, I see like 35 games. I used to play a lot more DPS 96.
Hmm.
Like now, you can see I'm only at like 20 for last season. I don't think I've even placed this season.
Yeah.
25.
So would you say I guess I'm asking like if tank, like kind of in terms of tank versus DPS, would you say that you've swapped over to maining tank, or are you still looking to play DPS too?
Um, I mean, I'm more focused on my tank right now because that's my best role. I actually only
Hmm.
did better on my DPS because my tank got better and I like learned more of the game
Hmm.
through my tank play than I do DPS.
Hmm. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, all good. So I was just thinking maybe like slightly spread out. So I mean, in general, just want to make sure, especially this depends on your priorities. If you're just playing that fun and you have fun playing a bunch of different characters, then that's fine. Play a bunch of different characters. But if you're looking to improve or get better or whatever, you're going to want to play maybe a little bit less spread out because that lets you improve at a faster rate. When you don't spread out your time, especially when you don't play, like if you don't play it like 6-8 hours a day. So typically, my recommendation is like 2 to 3 characters on one role, and then that means that you get a little bit of a diversity, but you're able to not spread your time too thin. The more time you put in, the more you can spread out, and the less time you put in, the less you probably should be spread out. Because you think, just for example here, right? We have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Right, we have 11, 12 hours on um, tank here, right? But
Right.
only 4 hours in our main character, right? So if we, for example, cut out all of these like side characters and put stuck that in our Reinhardt and our Diva or Roadhog or something like that, then we would have bumped it up an extra third, right, of our
Okay.
time. So that's just in terms of like how to improve faster, but it's really up to you. I mean, if you want to stay spread thin, that's completely fine. If because I mean, even I do that in my own gameplay because I'm not taking it super competitively anymore. So
Right.
in any case, let's go over a bunch of different things. So what were the things we are gonna go over? We were gonna go over do do
Actually
do.
shooting the squishies, the
Yeah, we
healers.
yeah we talked about that. We're gonna discuss. I'm trying to think. I think we're gonna go over aggression. So let's talk about how to tell whether or not you have won or lost a fight. So how to tell whether or not you have won or lost a fight is through kill feed mainly. Is paying attention to the kill feed. So when it comes to kill feed, right, you want to pay attention to it. And when you are up 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage, right? When you're up people, you play more aggressive. When you are up 2 to 3, that is a one fight, right? At that point, you can get really aggressive and you can look to go in, get kills, right? No more ults as well, right? This also
Okay.
goes the exact opposite way, right? When you're down 1 to 2 people, that is a disadvantage, right? You haven't lost the fight yet, but you're losing the fight, so you might want to play more passive. And then when you are down 2 to 3, that is a lost fight, and at that point, you want to look to get out if possible, or if you can't, you let them kill you, right? You don't want to just kind of be in the middle where you're not really getting out, or letting them kill you, right? Because then you end up staggering yourself. Are you familiar with that term?
Yes.
Yep. So maybe we want to make sure we're not staggering because that ends up wasting time, or your team will just walk in without you, which isn't going to be very good at all. Then we also want to make sure we're not using ults in lost fights, and then finally we want to make sure we're not, going in when we don't have teammates, right? Because we ended up doing that quite a bit, where we would kind of walk in without looking at our surroundings, and we wouldn't have teammates with us, or they'd be dead, right? So make sure before we're going aggressive, we're checking, do we have our team with us? So like before we push forwards, we we either watch kill feed or we do a quick scan. We look behind us and then we check, do I have my team? I do, okay, now I'm going, right? Instead of just going in without checking, right? Because that we end up doing that a couple of times. So let's talk
Yeah.
about aggression scaling. Actually, yeah. So then I guess just go more in depth, because we're gonna go in depth a little bit here. You also have a bunch of other things that go into fights, because you might be asking yourself, oh well, what about 2? Because you said it goes 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3. How do I tell whether or not it's one or a won or lost fight when it's 2 kills, right? Well, that means that you have to pay attention to a bunch of other things too, right? Which team has more health? Which team has better positioning? More ults, more abilities? Which team has closer spawns, right? Which team just overall has more advantages, right? So those are other things that go into whether or not you're winning or losing, right? And
Right.
they can, if for example you are down 2 people, right? Like it's a 6v4, yet you have a significant advantage, like their entire team's 1 HP, well, maybe that's still winnable, right? Or maybe you have close spawns, like on a 2CP map, maybe it's still winnable, right? That type of deal. And then now let's get to aggression scaling, right? When you think of aggression, think of yourself on a scale, right? So at 50%, you have your neutral aggression. So every fight, you're coming into the fight at neutral 50% aggression. Now, when you get advantages and when you get opportunities and when you have resources, you scale upwards. 100% would be a super aggressive, right? And then when you have disadvantages or a lack of opportunities or a lack of resources, you scale downwards in aggression, right? So you'd go down and 0 would be super passive. So how that would work is, let's say we get, easy way to do this is kills, right? You get 1 kill, you'd go from 50 to 60 or 70, right? You get
Okay.
2, you'd go up to 70, right? 80, that type of range. And then when you get 3, 4, 5, 6, right? That type of range, then you'd go up to 80, 90, 100, right? Then when you get, it goes the exact opposite way as well, right? You adjust up and down based off of kills, right? Now on top of that, you do the same exact thing with, like, do I have my shield? Do I have health? If you don't, you could be up, let's say you could be up like 3 kills, but then be 1 HP, and well, now we're dropping our aggression down way to like a 20, right? We're not going aggressive when we don't have health, right? So we just pay attention to all those things, and then that we scale our aggression accordingly. So besides that, let's talk about soft dives real quick on D.Va. So we already talked about making sure we're actually going for their supports instead of the tanks, but let's talk about soft dives. So how should we be looking to approach fights? So you probably understand, just what diving in is. It's going in and getting on top of them, right? But you have
Right.
soft dives and you have hard dives, right? So a soft dive, I guess hard dive, let's define that first. Hard dive is when you're going in with the intent to kill. You're going in really hard, you're using all your abilities, you're going in and you're trying to kill the person, and a lot of times that puts you in the middle of their team, right? A soft dive is when you go in without the intent to kill. You're going in with the intent to create space, to get ult charge, and to do some damage, right? So when to use both of them. So most of the time you do soft dives unless you have the opportunity to do a hard dive, right? So a hard dive happens when somebody's out of position, when you have ultimates, when when you have kills, right? You're up players, when you have opportunities, right? Somebody's low health, right? Those are times where you hard dive, right? Now, when you don't have any opportunities at all, so like say, for example, at the very beginning of the fight, you might not want to do a hard dive right away because you don't have any opportunities, right? Another time where you can hard dive is when you're going in with like your whole team, like you're doing a full coordinated Monkey, D.Va, Tracer, Genji dive, right, where everyone's going in at once, right? But at the beginning of a fight, you might want to do a soft dive, right? Where we, for example, right, we just would go up, we'd shoot at them a little bit, we'd poke them, and then we just drop back, right? We're not going in super aggressive, we're not going in trying to kill things, but we're going in, we're creating space, we're poking, we're getting ult charge, right? And we're doing
Right.
damage in the meanwhile. And then we do that, and we do that, and we do that, right? The other thing we can do, like, with this is, like, for example, we could, like, drop from high ground on top of them, right? Like, we can come from here, we can drop on their heads, do this a little bit, and then we can escape back up to high ground, right? That would be a soft dive. Now, hard dive would be like if we just went like this and boosted straight in their faces and ended up here, right? So that's just the difference between the two, and when you should be doing each. So that's just a bunch of different aggression things. And then I think I'm trying to remember if there's anything else we're gonna talk about. think that is about it. I think you can, yeah, so we're gonna use the last, like, 8-10 minutes or so to do a review, go over the main points, and then wrap up the session. So we don't have enough time for another comp game. Do you maybe have, like, a replay we could go over real quick? For, like, just, like, 5 minutes or so?
A loss or a win? What do you think?
Typically, losses are better, though the big factor is, did you play averagely, and was it a close game?
Oh God, I don't remember. These are from 3 days ago.
Yeah, all good then. I mean, we're only gonna be in it real quick, so just pick random one.
All right. Icon World.
Traveling to icon ready.
Yeah, if you are you familiar with how to share codes?
Oh. Yeah, that makes more sense. Huh?
Traveling to Eichenwald. Ready for battle.
Damage increase.
Thanks for the assist. I will not let
Ready
the
for battle.
foul displays happen to my country.
Alright.
Bad guys.
So here, unintentionally or intentionally or not, we actually are holding no man's land, where we're holding back here instead of up at the choke. So this here, we're actually positioning well, and we probably just picked that up from watching people play, like just watching good
Are
players in our
you
games.
are you
Oh,
streaming
sorry.
it?
Yeah, that's my bad. Actually, I accidentally turned off my stream for some reason. That was dumb.
That's all right.
Yeah, so here's back up. So here we actually are holding the choke, but though I would hold more so in the corner. Though we actually, never mind, we leave the no man's land. So here we'd let them push in towards us, right? And then if they went right side, we just rotate to meet them, and then that way we, hold them all out the corner. Oh, that was the other thing we were gonna go over, wasn't it? Okay, why don't we leave and then we'll go over that, and then that should catch us up to the end. Okay, so we're just gonna talk about general positioning real quick. So basically, general positioning, right? Just good positioning is, if we are standing here and the enemy team is standing over there, it takes us 1, 2, 3 seconds to get behind cover, right? Now, when we're behind cover, you cannot shoot through solid objects, so we're safe, but in that time it took us to get here, we died, right? Whereas if we were to stand right here, it takes us half a second to duck behind cover, right? Much, much better than the entire 3 seconds. That's 6 times faster, right? Which means that we're actually going to survive if we do this right here, right? So essentially, that means we want to make sure we're using cover, and cover's all over the place, right? Good positioning is the usage of cover, bad positioning is the absence of cover, right? So we can use cover like this, like a slope. We can use random pillars we have lying around in between shots, when we're reloading, when we're being shot at, ulted at, right? You have corners, you have, random objects like the payload, right? Pillar, corner, high grounds all act as natural cover, right? High grounds are great because they all act as natural cover. See us, now they can't. And then on top of that, people can't get up to us, and then, most characters in the game can't get up to us, and the ones that can need to use abilities. And then finally, we have a ton of visibility, right? We can see over there, and over here, and over there, over here, and over there, right? Whereas on the low ground, we can't see any of the high ground, or over there, over there, over here, right?
Right.
Now, on top of that, we want to make sure when we're shielding, we're not standing right here. Instead, we're standing over here, right? On the corner, we're holding corners, right? Because when we're doing this, right, let's say our shield goes down, well, now we don't have any cover to use, right? And this also encourages our team, right? If our team is holding right here, they're not going to have, if they're holding behind us, they're not going to have any cover to use, right? Whereas if we hold over here, they're going to be encouraged to stand over here where there's cover, and therefore that helps our whole team have better positioning, us have better positioning, and then on top of that, this also means that we can do this with our shield, and this puts half of our shield in the wall, and it means that they can only shoot at half of it, which extends the life of our shield, as now it's taking less damage because they can only shoot at half of it, right? So, all different ways to, all different reasons why we should be using cover and holding shields. Holding corners. So, let us discuss main points, go over, quick review, and then wrap up the session. So, let's see. So, we went over Ryan, Diva, Sigma, but the other two briefly. So, ability usage, Fire Strike was good, charge was good. Shield management, making, all the different things with that was just you use it when you're pushing, when you're backing, when you're blocking abilities and ultimates, when someone's low, when you're low, and when you're blocking a bunch of damage, right? Same thing applies on Sigma Shield and on Diva's Defense Matrix, right? But especially with Diva's Defense Matrix, you're specifically looking to target abilities and ultimates if possible, right? Those are the ones that you're intentionally trying to think of, because as Diva, you can block it even better than Reinhardt can for a lot of things, right? Besides that, Diva, say maybe use missiles slightly more, as we didn't. Sometimes we just kind of held on to that, and then Sigma use grasp more often, as we kind of never used that one, right?
There is no obligation for
Then
the
overall, I'd
universe
probably
to
say
make
like
sense to
ability
you.
usage went to like a probably low to medium priority for you to work on, right?
Okay.
Now ultimate usage, Sigma, we got like one person in Reflex, looking for more people. Don't use ults in won or lost fights. Reinhardt, again, we only got like one person in our shatter. I can't remember how many shatters we actually saw. But I remember one of them we got one person, one of them we got two people. Being more ambitious with it, go for more people, because typically two should be like the very bare minimum that you're looking for. But look for when more people are grouped up and when you can get more people than just two or one, right? And then Devo, we didn't get anything worth the bomb. So ultimately, ultimate usage honestly didn't really get that much value every time we used an ultimate. So we want to get more value, look to do more with our ultimates, be more ambitious with them, try to get more done. So overall, I'd probably say ultimate usage goes like a medium priority for you to work on.
Okay.
Mechanics, Reinhardt does not have mechanics, but Reinhardt doesn't have mechanics, but you do have things, right? Like target priority, right? Making sure we're shooting at DPS and supports, not tanks and shields. And then we do shoot at tanks and shields when they're the only thing we can shoot at. When they're low, we're out of position, right? Besides that, I think mechanics on Diva and Sigma were fine with just general shooting and
There is
tracking.
no obligation for the
So overall
universe to
mechanics
make sense to
probably,
you.
because so really realistically the only thing in that was just we could just categorize this as target priority, and then target priority was probably like a medium priority on its own.
Okay.
Thinking. So next one is positioning. So positioning, making sure we're using cover, making sure we're respecting no man's land, making sure we're taking high grounds and rotating in between fights. And then I think that is pretty much it within positioning. Again, probably just like a medium priority. It looks like a lot of things are stacking up around here, right? It wasn't like an insane amount within that, but there was stuff.
Right.
And then finally, we have awareness/aggression, which is going to be the big one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so awareness/aggression is paying attention to your surroundings, right? So watching our health bar, watching our shield health, watching where's my team at and where's the enemy team at, right? So we're not running in without our team and we know where the enemy team is at, right? Making sure we're paying attention to all of the different things around us, right? Audio awareness, what team compositions and how we play differently accordingly, and how we adjust our aggression, right? Aggression, remember aggression scaling, right? We adjust up with advantages, with opportunities, and with resources, and we adjust down with a lack of resources, with lack of opportunities, and with disadvantages, right? That's when we adjust
Right.
up and down, right? And we scale we start off in 50, we go up or down based off of those three. Besides that, kill feed was 1 to 2 is an advantage or disadvantage, 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. No ults in won or lost fights. Look to get out if you can in a lost fight, or if you can't, let them kill you, right? Don't just kind of sit around, right? On top of that, don't go in with all your teammates. Make sure you're waiting for them. And then also just one quick thing I forgot about shield. Don't flash shield up randomly, right?
Yeah, that's killing me.
And that is pretty much it. Overall, that went to like a medium high priority. That one was pretty big. So overall, let's summarize that up real quick. Main points would be number 1 being awareness/aggression. Number 2, probably I'm trying to think. Is it ultimate usage, positioning, or mechanics? Probably say number 2 is positioning. Number 3 is going to be your ultimate usage. Number 4 is going to be your target priority, and then number 5 is going to be your ability usage, right? Do you have any questions about anything that we've talked about, or just anything else in general?
I just like the biggest thing I feel like is the kill feed, right? Because if I just looked at that, like you said, I would stop. Like with Diva, I was still diving when everyone was dead, and like I always notice that because people will yell like, "Oh, you're staggering." So like, I have no idea. Like I'm aware of it, but I don't know how to fix it really. Besides
so
looking up.
So let's talk about that then. So this goes against the opposite of what you were saying earlier, and I actually forgot that I wanted to talk about that. So thanks for bringing it back up. So how to work on awareness, right? Or paying attention to kill feed. Well, you work on awareness the exact same way that you work on anything that you're trying to improve on, and that is that you focus upon it while you're playing, right? That means that we're not going to autopilot while we're playing. We're not going to just zone out. We're not just going to play to play, because when we do that, we don't actually go anywhere. We're not going to improve because we're not thinking about our gameplay. We also, contrary to popular belief, are not going to be playing to win, as when you play to win, you don't improve, and when you play to improve, you win, right? Then, therefore, right, what your brain should look like while you're playing is awareness, 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 or kill feed, kill feed, kill feed, kill feed, kill feed, right? And we're giving ourselves a constant reminder, right? And when we give ourselves a constant reminder to look at and to pay attention to our surroundings, that's all that awareness is paying attention to our surroundings, right?
Right.
So that means our awareness is going to be better, and when we do that for a long enough period of time, it just kind of forms itself as a habit to where we don't need to pay attention as much anymore, and we can move on to something else. And then that's when you can zone out and still be good on your awareness, right? But then I probably still wouldn't recommend zoning out. Then I also, one other recommendation to be, just don't try to do everything all at once, because that'll get overwhelming. Instead, focus on one category of things, or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category.
Awesome.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, so let me stop the recording there then.